Good evening. This is sort of like a firing squad. So, that's the whites of your eyes. So this book, I'm living on Chesterman's Beach, and I go all the way around the world and end up back on Chesterman's Beach. At this point, I've been reading all this weird shit that was coming out in the 80s about quantum mechanics, and it's just completely unhinged me. And I can't stop thinking about this light paradox. It's just annoying as hell. And I can't believe that I'm actually getting on a plane the next day going to Africa or Asia, because it's what I'm decided. Who can make a decision that big? So I figure skydiving will kind of shake me loose, and I'll be off of my I was clutching at straws. Here. I was 25 at this point. So then I find out that my jump master is Australian. I'm not, and I should say, the book is written in the style of an 1890s travelogue, because I love that language. I am not one who judges Australians for their abject origin, transported aboard hulks for stealing loaves and fishies to the furthest point on earth from Whitehall. I knew they had more words for vomit than Inuit for snow, talking on the great white telephone looking for Huey, Technicolor yawn, but I turned a blind eye on such aberrations as I did not wish to throw stones in the Crystal Palace of Canada. For I had read among the antique volumes of a children's encyclopedia from 1923 an entry on the newfangled and controversial Stanford Binet IQ test, wherein the author asked, should children who are poor in math be forced to do their sums, or should they be sent to Canada to help assist in the great work of feeding mankind? The offhand tone implies this plan was common knowledge. Indeed, just as Australia was engineered to be the Empire's penitentiary, Canada was to be its breadbasket, an endless wheaty plantation worked by those strong of back and weak of mind. The plan was debated in the British Parliament as early as 1835, under the aegis, the shoveling out of paupers. And though Ottawa loudly decried this invasion of van boys from Glasgow, no trace of it remains in our nation's collective consciousness. So, I ignored Brucey's needlessly crushing handshake and resolved myself to the ordeal ahead. I saw it as a technological rebirth. I would leap from the belly of the plane and this time handle my own cord. My faith in reason would be restored. So then I go to the clubhouse. The chapter is called The Company of Men. Here in the company, they were all guys. Here in the company of men had fashioned a great mandala out of sand and cigarette butts. Bruce hurled a sort of kit back at my head and twanged, "This is a parachute, there's nothing magical about it." He said my ripcord would be hooked to a ring in the ploin, so when I jumped, it would go automatically in case I whited out from Thea. Then it would tear free because it was only attached by Velcro. This last he demonstrated with a giant patch of the stuff, while I marveled at how I put my faith in the laws of science and ended up with Velcro. Bruce snapped his fingers like a beatnik, counseled me to pay attention, and hung me from a metal gibbet. Once you're out of the ploin, you do a little dance. And he threw his arms wide as if describing a giant fish, and bowed his back and cried, "Arch! 1,000, 2,000, and when he came to 5, looked high above his head and said with satisfaction, "Check your canopy." He underlined this last with finger jabs. "Don't forget to check your canopy." And told of how 6 months previous, a woman forgot to check her canopy and hit the ground like a grand piano. He stomped the plywood like a pantomime horse counting to 1. Don't ask me why she didn't check. Women are stupid. Dismayed by this intelligence, I watched him make a series of hieratic gestures by which I might release a reserve ship should my canopy fail. Then he showed me how to steer left and right by pulling 2 small toggles. Last, he advised me to practice till said motions became second nature. So I described the giant fish for an hour while he gazed out the window, talked of Sheila's, and tried to guesstimate the wind velocity. At noon he said, right, you're ready. This is your first jump. You'll never forget it. I've jumped 1,000 times and I still remember mine. A touching moment, but I was thinking of a way to get my money back. The chutes were being dispensed by a coffin-cut blonde whose tombstone eyes intoned, I might make love to you, or I might kill you and eat you. She was so beautiful, a fuse blew in my head, and I thought I was Captain Kirk. I swaggered up to her. She asked how much I weighed. 165, I said. She seemed surprised, and more so when the only jumpsuit that would span my girth was one they kept in back, an outlandish affair of flocked fuchsia cotton with yellow stars embroidered on the shanks, and which, once donned, clung to my frame like ragged bell-bottoms that had escaped the 70s, crept up over my waistline and tried to choke me. I waddled to the airfield, dazzled by sun, dimly aware that 165 was my ideal weight. which total I had gleaned from a Reader's Digest quiz in a dentist's waiting room. My actual weight, I had no clue. Scales are for chumps. And all summer I had dined woefully at the pub on bacon strips from the prep table, washed down with copious quaffs of root beer from the spigot behind the bar, tipping the glass so that the soda ran down the outside, resulting in a syrupy concentrate that lent me the wild vigor of an autistic child. I chuckled to think of all